Everyone is a creative problem solver. Our jobs are to imagine a place for our brands in the future, to understand the now and the next with enough clarity to remain relevant long after we've left our current assignments. But how do we do that? In my experience, finding the right questions to ask are more important than the answers that follow. Asking ourselves, what is it that the future requires of my brand, of me, is a great place to start. Which is why I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Antonia Ward. Antonia is the Chief Futurist at the global trends intelligence firm Stylus. A former journalist, Antonia's 2 decades of experience with consumer futures places her squarely at the intersection of brands and the questions they should be asking about the future. It is my pleasure to welcome Antonia Ward.
Do you think about the future? The future defines so many things we hold dear. Relationships, your career, success, business growth, long-term happiness, the future of your family, your company, your country, your planet. We're so focused on the not now that a whole industry has grown up around trying to teach us to be more focused on the moment, more mindful. So I bet you do think about the future, but I think you're thinking about it all wrong. Understanding possible futures, how to know what's behind them, how to get ahead of them, is my profession. So I know talking about the future means a lot of unanswered questions, and not just because the future, by its very definition, hasn't happened yet. It's because we've grown up on a diet of fictional futures that showed us how we'd live. And like kids in the back seat, we're asking, are we there yet? And our questions are pretty childlike too. Questions like, where is my flying car? Are robots coming to take my job? When will teleportation be possible? Sure, we might detour slightly into when will there be a cure for cancer, but pretty soon we're back in the Star Trek of it all. When will I be able to print my own food? Can we go live on Mars? Will I be able to live on after my death, or even not have to die at all? Asking questions is good. It's the only way we'll get to build the future we deserve to create, but these are the wrong questions. Luckily, I believe that thinking about the future helps you learn to ask the right questions, but the right questions are often the hard questions. I've got 4 examples of that for you today. Let's start with what we might think is a hard question: how can I be happy? Or more relevantly, perhaps, how can I create things that make people happy? We're tracking trends in the search for happiness across retail, entertainment, consumer products, travel, pharmaceuticals, digital, and more. You've heard for years that people don't just want stuff, they want experiences, and yes, they do. They still want stuff. But people are seeking affirming, supportive, and inspirational experiences that are a vehicle for healing, reset, and recovery. So what does that look like? Well, it's things like happiness tourism. Travellers specifically asking for their vacations and travel time to bring them joy and comfort, more nature-led travel experiences, more creativity embedded into travel options. There's even a Medi-Spa in Germany offering happiness weeks, where a motivational speaker guides you in positive psychology and the science of happiness. It's also why we're seeing more playfulness in design, because the home is now a workplace for many, and 3 in 5 Americans say they now find it harder to carve out personal space to relax and find joy at home. So a chair that becomes a slide when it's turned over asks, why shouldn't the things you have in your home stimulate fun and entertainment? And a brightly coloured series of crosswalks in London asks, why shouldn't our cities be exuberant, joyful spaces? And the search for happiness is also why we see changing attitudes to once taboo subjects. Retailer Cult Beauty has witnessed an 850% spike in searches for sexual wellness at the start of the pandemic. And in 2022, the global psychedelic drugs market is forecast to grow 16%. I don't dispute our desire to be happy, but I do think there is a better question here. Who cares? Who cares for me? Who cares for you? Who cares about my happiness? How can I care for you and your happiness if you are my family, my colleagues, my partner, my community, my customer, my consumer? How can all the things we're building, products, digital spaces, cities, systems, be better designed to offer care? And if you think care is not relevant to a tech-forward future society, I say ask more questions. If the impacts of technology changing society worry you, rather than retreating from that technology, look harder at it. Ask how technology can extend the human ability to care beyond its current limits of distance, economy, or physicality. Read Bloomberg City Lab or Shannon Matton from the New School in New York about a new movement among designers which considers care as a key component to building long-lasting and adaptable systems for living. Read Alexis Lloyd on how we might propose principles of care when designing for digital spaces. How might we design online social spaces that better enable us to care and support others? If we're going to build a metaverse, and remember, that's a concept from dystopian fiction, why can't we put care at the heart of it? A second question you might have about the future is who? Who is my future consumer? Businesses and brands often use trends to understand new consumer cohorts, how they're emerging and evolving, because understanding what people are going to want is about understanding who they are. And if you're a millennial, you're a future, but you're not the only future. Sorry. Gen Z will overtake millennials in earnings by 2031. And if you're an American or a European Gen Z, not so fast. 9 in 10 Gen Z live in emerging markets. And in just 60 years, there will be more people from Nigeria than there will be people from Europe. So when we think about future consumers, we're drawn to the familiar or the young, but that's not the future for any of us. By 2050, over 65s will represent 1 in 6 of the world's population. That's one of those statistics you hear so often it kind of washes over you, right? But who are those people? And what will they want? Well, they're me and they're some of you, and they want more. By 2030, 2 billion people worldwide will require access to at least one assistive technology. So our unsexy future is next-gen hearing aids, wearable robots to help us stay active for longer, and AI-assisted smart glasses that will transform the lives of people with disabilities. So my question here is a question to ask yourselves. When you think about your future self, what are you afraid of? Being outnumbered? Being outdated? Being invisible in public spaces and popular culture and to product designers? Being you, but with the multiple minor impairments that age brings? Because how calmly and clearly you look at your own future, and let's face it, your own future only ends one way, will affect how pragmatically, practically, and ultimately profitably you can imagine futures for your products and brands. Our third question is about when we are going to get behind building a better future. Because if you've heard the one about the ageing population, you've also heard the one about how we broke the planet, about how time's running out for us to mitigate and manage the effects of climate change and not make it any worse. We're seeing this planet-first pragmatism in all categories. We see brands being better neighbours, we call it neighbour-gooding, brands reaching beyond the confines of their category or function. IKEA, a retailer, has started selling renewable energy as a subscription service to households in Sweden. Japanese brand ASICS sells footwear and apparel, but has been working to try and upgrade the mental and physical health of a whole town in the UK. And in India, social commerce platform OTP is connecting communities of consumers with farmers with small-scale sellers through WhatsApp group chats. If you're serious about understanding the future, and you should be, you have to look around the world for these early indicators of change, of brands doing things differently and of consumers asking for and expecting new things. But the question I want you to ask is this really new, or is this a new version of the old? New manifestations of trends, new brand responses to new consumer demands are important. But we also have to interrogate where these are just new mechanisms for old processes, to question the underlying assumptions we're making about what tasks are done and who is responsible for them. If we could consider new norms in how societies and economies function, what futures might we imagine? What if economies and populations simply can't grow infinitely? What is our measure of success then? Look at economist Kate Raworth's Donut Economies if you want great thinking on this idea of thriving. I said before that people will still want stuff, but what stuff? So your fourth question about the future might be, what are the new markets and product categories going to be, and how can I get in on that? Well, look at the pet category. Not just that as birth rates go down, pet ownership goes up, but at how the category is evolving and what it affects in turn. So global spending on pet care increased 8.7% in 2021. And Morgan Stanley tells us that 2/3 of US 18 to 34-year-olds are planning to get a pet in the next 5 years, which will drive a 14% increase in pet ownership. Of course, this means new products for pets and their owners. In Japan, new designs of scooters have inbuilt pet cabins. The brand is called Mopet, if you want to start importing them. In South Korea, there's a medical diagnostics app for pets. It's like the Google Dermatology app, only it scans pictures of pets' eyes or paws or fur to detect possible diseases. And in France, Invoxia has a smart collar that monitors a dog's breathing and heart vitals, as well as their activities. It's launching this summer. But pets lead to changes for humans too. From the Great Resignation to the Great Realignment, employees are asking new things from workplaces and employers. Nearly half of Gen Z and 1/3 of millennials say they would rather quit their job than leave their pets at home full time. So pet ownership affects workplace culture and office occupancy, which means that the worlds of pet care and real estate are not so far apart anymore. So you may think my recommended question here is to look for unlikely connections and unanticipated impacts. And yes, you should look for those things. But my real question is ask yourself, what are you laughing at? What seems ridiculous? What seems like a toy or a fad or just plain dumb? Don't get me wrong, there will be toys and fads in the future, but the very fact that you find something ridiculous, laughable, impossible to imagine going mainstream, that tells you something about a future that you're not yet prepared to consider. And if the question you're asking yourself now is, how can I integrate thinking about the future into how I create brands, campaigns, products and services today, then great. You should seek out new views and niche innovations. You should talk to your agencies and partners about things beyond your account. You could talk to experts outside your sector, industry, social bubble or education level. And please talk to consumers and users and the people whose unheard views and unmet needs have never made it into your ideation sessions and focus groups. But the question you really need to be asking is, am I uncomfortable enough? Because tomorrow's innovation will come from a place of discomfort. Did you feel a little discomfort when I talked about care? Did it feel a bit feminine, not commercial enough? Did talk of values and labour and worth sound a bit politically untrustworthy, utopian but also naive? Do diversity and equality and sustainability feel idealistic? Important, yes, but maybe ultimately not relevant to the trends shaping business? Good. That's the uncomfortable reality we're heading towards. We can't solve today's problems using the same tools and technologies and business models that made them. We should all be thinking about the future all the time. Yes, partly because it's coming for us whether we like it or not, but also because we make the future twice, once in our imaginations and then in reality. And it's that first exercise that's so powerful, because you get to ask, what do you really want? A less bad version of what came before, or something that's really new, really good in all senses of the word, for all senses of the world? Start asking more questions. Thank you.
Antonia, thank you. That was absolutely brilliant. I've got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So you spoke of our quest for happiness, a fear of feeling invisible, understanding our future consumer and what that might mean, and what it might mean to us when we're there. What's the one big question you'd personally like answered and why?
I'm a futurist, so I'm always asking what's next, but I think I'd love brands to be thinking about what else. What else can they do with the amazing global reach they have, the power, the access to intimate moments in consumers' lives? I'd love people to be thinking about what else they could do with any product launch or a campaign or innovation that could be more than just convenience or commerce.
And so I could listen to you all day. If anyone wanted to deep dive into any of the topics you've spoken about, where should they be looking?
Oh, people should be reading about the future all the time. And it's going to be a mixture of inspiring and terrifying, and that's totally fine. What we publish on Stylus tends to be more inspiring, so I would say scare yourself a little as well. Read the World Economic Forum's risk register, for example, and seek out views and voices that you don't agree with, because it'll give you the kind of necessary humility you need for the future. So Benedict Evans on technology, Alexis Lloyd from the Ethical Futures Lab, Shannon Matten on architecture, voices that have you asking more questions than seeking answers.
I love that. So that's homework for us all. Thank you so much for today. Back over to Kansas City.